So I do want to welcome you to the annual Inquiry Academy Parent Informational Meeting. Typically, as you know, we've done this for the last couple of years. We've offered a parent meeting. Last year and this year are both virtual, unfortunately. We do want to give you an opportunity at the end. If you have questions, I would ask that you type them into the chat or you signal by waving a hand or something, and hopefully we can get to you. The presentation will be made by myself. The team leader is Heidi Byrne is here. I see Mr. Jancis, Carl Jancis, our social studies teacher. Alicia Gove, one of our school counselors, is here as well. And Heidi, did I get everybody?
I think so. I know Miss Lynch was planning to be here. I'm sure she'll pop in at some point in time. She's an English teacher on our team.
So let me get started, and I'm going to present my screen, which means I won't be able to see the rest of you at this point, which is always fun. Oh, yeah, okay, I can see people still. Good. So this is our annual event. We wanted to highlight the Inquiry Academy program. We do have an application, which we'll get to, we'll go throughout the presentation. But I do want to emphasize this program to start off was the brainstorming idea of about 15 to 20 teachers. We collectively got together about 7.5 years ago, and we came up with a plan of what we would want school to look like if we could start from scratch. Obviously, there are certain things that, and we'll get into all the things, there are certain requirements that have to be followed. And one of them is that the curriculum remains the same for each of the courses that is taught in the traditional setting. And when I say traditional setting, your regular team setting for the other teams. Now for 7th grade, that would be our gold and our red teams. Everybody has we have an 8-period day that doesn't change. There are some other nuances, which I'm sure Ms. Byrne and Mr. Jancis will get into in a minute. But it's been now running for, this is the 6th year. We have our first set of students who are graduating. I can actually say that I saw one of our, I believe our former students is doing an AP capstone project, a research project at the high school level, and we're earning college credit for some original research, which her research career started out at the middle school in 7th grade on the inquiry team. So very happy little fact there. We have pushed the inquiry program, I should say pushed. We've moved the inquiry program from the middle school on into the high school, and we'll get into that in a bit. So just to give you an idea, I mentioned we have 2 programs, a traditional program, which is your normal 8-period day. Follows the same routine. You have 6 classes on each of the core teams, which is reading, math, science, social studies, English language arts. Take them all. Science, social, English language arts. And then you have unified art electives. The Inquiry Academy does not have a reading class. Instead of reading, we have substituted that for GeniusHour, and you'll hear more about that tonight. I'll let Ms. Byrne start.
Sure. So, you know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So these are some of the things that our students have done in the past. An electronics take-apart day, trip to the Met in New York City. We have some restrictions at the moment that aren't allowing that, but you know, this is where we think. And some presentation by some formerly homeless people to help students understand and some of the backgrounds and situations that some of those people come from and what they're dealing with. So some questions to ask as parents of your kid, and if for those students who are watching, for some things for you to consider. are you passionate about learning? Do you just love to investigate things and learn new things? Is the traditional classroom kind of like, it's kind of not your thing? Do you like to have choice about how you show your learning? Those are some things to think about in determining if this is the right fit for you. So what is this Inquiry Academy about? Well, an inquiry learning model. So this is the idea that you're learning through asking questions and experiencing things, more individualized, kind of meeting students where they are and focusing and exploring areas of their interest. We'll talk about GeniusHour a little bit later, but that is a great opportunity for students to really dive into something that they're interested in that might not fit into our traditional curriculums. Multidisciplinary approach. When we see connections between our classes, we point them out, we take advantage of them. And so sometimes our English and science classes are learning about things at the same time. Sometimes it's math and social studies. You never know. A lot of emphasis, and I think this is probably one of the biggest things about the Inquiry Academy, a lot of emphasis on communication, collaboration, creativity. Students are working together a lot. That's definitely encouraged. A lot of presentation skills are worked on. Mr. Jancis is great at that. Research and problem-based learning. And we meet all the same competencies that the other teams meet. Everything that's required for them to move on to the high school, they'll get on this team. So how does it work? We have GeniusHour time. We have a whole slide for that. More choice and independence. Students have a lot more choice in how they show what they know. And as you can see, we've got some real world projects going on. We like to get out and see how what we're learning in the classroom works out in the real world.
Just to give you an idea, some of the other things that they do on team as well as part of their projects is we've had a number of collections for like pet shelters, homeless shelters, things like that they collaborate and do along with some of the units they cover in their classes. So it is really a multidisciplinary approach and we try to involve the community a lot. There's probably not a week or two that goes by that the students aren't booking a time to meet with the principal because they have some great idea or some great project. And they're like, so Dr. Cerusi, do you have any money? And so they're not above asking, which is nice. It's not common that you see that. And I will tell you that it's the relationships they build with the students, with administration, that goes really far for us. It's a program that has been self-sustaining. We've had our ups and downs with the programs, and we're really proud of it. And one of the big things we've had some switches even in staffing, and everybody who's moved into the program has been involved from the onset, from the original core group about 7.5 years ago. And just watching students grow is a lot of fun, especially seeing them at the high school. I think three of my favorite projects. One was a nuclear reactor, which
a model nuclear reactor.
The model nuclear reactor did not work. No, this is not Big Bang Theory. And another one was a guitar, homemade guitar. And the other one was an organ. Student actually made an organ. And I can tell you, they're now, some of those students are now seniors at the high school. Mr. Jancis, want to jump in?
Sure thing. So what is it that sort of, is going to be different when you join the Inquiry Academy? First off, we actually are a split team, which means we have 8th graders and 7th graders on the same team. They tend to have, they are separated for their classes, so their math and English and social studies, science, there will be with other 7th grade students on the team. But when we do field trips and things like that, they get to interact with students who are in 8th grade. And that, sets up a sort of a system where you have someone who can sort of, be a little bit of a positive, role model for the new students coming in. And even better, when they get to the high school, when they show up as freshmen, they'll already know people who are sophomores in the high school. So that is sort of a benefit of having the team. One of the probably largest differences is in the way in which students show learning. We tend to do a lot more project-based learning than, say, pen and paper tests. So we allow kids to have many different ways to show us, that they know the material. So they can find their own ways of showing that they know what they need to know based upon the curriculum. It is also a lot more independent, which means, we teach kids how to do organizational skills. We teach them how to plan, things like that. But really, we start to, wean them off of just having the teacher tell them what to do and get them to be a little bit more motivated on their own, be more independent. So we can give them a problem, give them a question, and have them sort of just work through it on their own. That's one of the skills that we teach them. And we also tend to be fairly interdisciplinary. So we have projects like we talked about the homeless project. We do things. We did a unit on the Iliad and the Trojan War, and we tend to pull all the different classes together. Right now, I know Mrs. Lynch and I were working together to take one of the projects the students are working on for me and have them use it as an English project with Mrs. Lynch as well. And I'll cover this one as well. Because one of the things we want to talk about is also like, well, what are some of the things they're going to see that will be traditional or similar to other teams? First off, the competencies. They're going to need to know how to read, write, how to research, how to do math skills. So all the things that you would expect a middle schooler to have to be able to learn to do, they're going to be learning that on the Inquiry Academy. There might be different ways of approaching it. It might be a little bit more individualized, but there's still going to be things that are, inescapable. So, there are some, parents or kids might think like, oh yeah, I'm going to do that because I love the Inquiry Academy. I'll just tell them I don't like writing papers and I won't write any papers. I'll just do something else. You can't escape that. No, you're still going to have to write essays. You're still going to have homework. You're still going to have to take math tests and things like that. Also, our schedule is very similar. So we're going to have the standard school day, just like all the other teams. We're going to rotate through classes, and they're going to have unified arts classes, PE classes, wellness classes, just like the other teams do. Obviously in terms of, rules and behavior, we follow the same kind of guidelines as the other teams as well.
I can jump in here. So what are we looking for? What kind of student is a good fit for Inquiry team? Well, hardworking, loves to learn, motivated, organized. Now we'll say organized, but let's be realistic. There aren't a lot of middle school students who are organized. So, that's something that we work on, and we hope we have students who are willing to work on that with us. But they'll be needing to have some time management skills and be willing to take responsibility for their work. Community minded. One of the things that every group of students has said as they moved up to the high school is how this team becomes like a family. Because these students are together for 2 years, they really get to know each other. And I can tell you that they are not necessarily all great friends. They're not the best buddies, but they know how to work with each other. And I can honestly say that I can put any group of students together in my classroom and they will be able to work together. It's not an issue. And that comes from all of the collaboration that they do throughout the 2 years that they are with us. This is probably one of the biggest things. We love kids who love to learn. And we delight in, kind of recognizing the weird things that all of us find interesting and that we learn about. So, we learn about all kinds of things. Right now the students are putting up a question of the week. Right now they're polling students about what their favorite fictional character is. So there's this kind of constant dialogue happening about, what's interesting to people. Open-minded, able to work with all kinds of students who might have different opinions, different interests, right? We have students who love basketball and we have students who love gaming. And yes, the two can actually get along and find common interests. And flexibility. Our schedule, we change our schedule on a dime. Oh, wait, no, we're all going to meet in the library this period. So, grab your stuff and let's go. As opportunities present themselves, we take advantage of them. And we don't always go about things the same way that maybe their teachers in the past have gone about. So we're looking for kids who are willing to come with us on that ride, if you will.
Before you go into GeniusHour, actually, let me go back a second. Just to reiterate something, you find a lot of these same characteristics on all the other teams. There's no question. We've moved, actually, our biggest professional development this year has been problem-based learning and inquiry. And that came from the staff at both middle school and high school. People want to know more. Part of it is, in some ways it used to be and still is a buzzword. But when you start to look deeper and you start to apply it into the classroom setting, it looks very different on the inquiry team versus a regular team. I would say, and I call them regular teams, but your regular standard team with the normal subject areas do very similar things. They do projects. They may not do as much of a variety. They may not always be able to do interdisciplinary because it's more structured. That's the biggest difference, is the structure. Which can frustrate seventh graders, keeping in mind that you come from structure through elementary school. It's been grades kindergarten through sixth grade. You've had a certain structure that you're used to. You go to these classes, this happens in each class, you know what to expect. You somewhat know what to expect on inquiry, but sometimes you're keeping track of different projects in different classes. Our seventh graders, and I say this right around, I'm going to say November. Every year it's a little different, October, November. They revolt and they tell the teachers that they're being too difficult. Now, on a normal team, you don't get a lot of revolt from your students. But sort of, this isn't the French Revolution or anything, so they're not bad when they do this, but they basically complain. And they complain to the parents, and the parents complain to us that they're lost. They can't, they're having a hard time keeping organized and time management. And it is a frustrating skill, as us adults know, to have to manage. And so that is sort of the first inkling that they're starting to get it, because they get that frustration, they hit that wall. And I call it a wall, but it's a learning experience that they work through, and they work through with their teachers. I've actually sat in on the first couple of years, and it was interesting to see that the kids would sit there with the teachers talking about how can we make all this stuff workable. They extended project timelines. They modified some projects. I will throw Mr. Jancis under the bus. At one point, he seemed to have about 19 projects kids could pick from, including what they want to do on their own. He narrowed it down a little bit to about 5 or 6, including an option for independence. But that's the thing. It's always a conversation between the teachers and the students and the classes. And the conversation is ongoing, and it's more personalized than if you are a team. Most teams, they have projects as well. They assign you can pick different areas. They are starting to move into more personalized projects. But again, it's a different structure. This team was set up for that. And the classes were set up to be just like this. I just wanted to throw that in there because I know the next slide is about GeniusHour, and I don't know who's taking that. Mr. Jancis, you taking that one?
So Genius Hour, usually when you ask kids, you know, sort of what the biggest draw is or what they enjoy most about the Inquiry Academy, it generally ends up being Genius Hour. Outside of course, you know, the great teachers they have. And Genius Hour really is a set time during the day. It's generally been our second period, where kids can choose a topic and a project of their own and just use that time to work on their own passion. Now, there are, of course, guidelines. They have to come up with a deeper thinking question, something that they really want to probe about their topic. They have to pitch their idea to the teachers to make sure that it is something that you know is doable. It's within their scope. Obviously, we make sure that it's not going to cost their parents any money, so they can't have their, you know, ask their parents to buy them a drone so they can, you know, do something big like that. But within those structures, it allows kids to really sort of find out what they're passionate about. And kids have done everything from teaching other kids how to fence to, as Dr. Cersei talked about, a kid who built his own electric guitar from scratch with his grandfather. We had kids do a project on lighthouses, built his own little mini lighthouse and talked about lighthouses. Kids make their own little speakers. You know, even to just something simple like a student who wanted to learn, you know, the proper way to cut wood and how to stack it so that they can get the most, you know, efficient BTUs out of what, you know, he was doing for his wood stove. So any and everything is sort of under the sun here. We have a lot of kids who do community service type projects, who love to do things. You know, again, that's where Dr. Cersei has to, you know, bat off 100 kids who all want to, like, you know, collect things for animal shelters and things like that. And then the students have to share their learning, whether it's with us, with their community. We had a student who did an ABC book all about wolves and then went back to her old elementary school classroom and read the book to her elementary school students in her old teacher's classroom. And you know, the way we look at it, we grade them not on a standard ABC, you know, but we actually look at them in terms of time management, research, and presentation skills. And we grade them on those criteria. So it's something that all kids have to show certain skills, but they can do whatever they want to show those skills. And it's a lot of fun watching what these kids are coming up with. One of the kids is trying to teach them how to do a Rubik's Cube. It's not going well. But it's a lot of fun watching him figure out, how do you teach an old man how to figure out how to do something, you know?
And if I can just tack on here, one of the things that's amazing about Genius Hour, that the longer I do this, the more I notice, is the number of different ideas and topics that our students are exposed to throughout the year by watching other students' Genius Hour projects, things that they would never think themselves to pay attention to, but now they're like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. You know, we've learned about the history of chocolate. We've learned about, you know, sustainable diets, you know, how to eat well and be environmentally conscious, you know, coding. We're learning how to get followers on Instagram. What's the algorithm behind that? Like it's amazing. I learn something new every day, and the students do too. And that, I think, is a testament to the program.
And I would say also, like, one of the things we talk about is, like, students support one another in their passions. So, you know, we had a student who was into fly fishing. You know, he was like, well, I don't want to present, like, no one's. I'm like, no, trust me. And the kids all went and they all support him and like, yeah, that's great. And they talked about it. We had a kid dress up like Beethoven, talk about Beethoven's life and play music on a keyboard. And the kids were all there supporting him. And so, you know, it's one of those sort of atmospheres where kids can feel a little more comfortable, you know, sort of exploring what, you know, they sort of geek out on or what they're nerdy about, and not have to worry so much about what other kids will think about.
Like the scuba gear in the picture.
Yeah.
That was actually quite a surprise when that showed up in the front office.
You never know what's coming in.
Yeah.
It'll be crested geckos soon, just to give you
Right,
forewarning.
I did hear about the geckos.
Yeah.
And I think last year was a dirt bike, so we've had quite the
Yeah.
variety of projects come through the door. Okay, some frequently asked questions, and I know that there have been quite a few over the years. We tried to put the most popular ones. How many students are accepted into the inquiry program? We typically have 35 spots. We try to keep the team around 70. I can tell you that inquiry would have about 70 students total. The seventh grade teams next year will probably have right around 70 students total, a little more than 70 each as well. The application deadline is January 28th. There's two opportunities. One, you can get the application off our website, or I believe an email, or it went home with the students for the presentations. There's also an opportunity. The registration packet will be coming out soon. It's an online registration packet, and it will ask you if you want to apply to inquiry. You can apply online using that registration packet. So there's basically 3 ways to get a hold of the application. We are asking that it's due by January 28th. We try to keep it a firm deadline, but if you apply, please apply after. Even if you forget, just let us know. We'd like to get all the applications in, as many as we can. And we do try to narrow down how many students we take. A lot of it depends on the numbers of 7th graders coming in. We try to divide evenly. The biggest question I think that I get, and I know that Heidi gets as team leader, and I think even the teachers get occasionally from parents, is this an honors program? No, we take students of all levels and all abilities. I will skip one question. Can a student with a special education IEP be in the program? The answer is yes, but we don't offer a lot of supports. There's not a lot of co-teaching that happens on the team. They're not always available. So there are certain limits to what we can do on the team, but at the same time, we don't discourage anyone from applying. A student with an IEP, we would look at it like any other student, but we would also look at it from the special ed point of view, is if they needed something that's more structured, then we would recommend a regular team. Or I should say more supports, we'd recommend a regular team. World language, we do not offer Latin on the inquiry team. It's only French and Spanish, and that's because the Latin teacher, the way it works is Latin is also taught at the high school. We share a teacher, and we've tried it in the past, and we weren't able to meet the requirements, the curriculum requirements. So it does involve a choice. I can tell you that if a student really wants Latin, they can do an independent study on it. We've had students do that. We've had students do, I think, was there one on Polish as well? I don't remember if we had a student, I think a student actually studied Polish as well. They like languages, and so they did that as one of their projects. So
Latin is also something they can take at the high school,
right,
as a freshman.
As a freshman, they can.
So it is offered.
We'd like to be offer everything, but everything doesn't always fit into the schedule. Anything to add, Heidi or Carla?
Good so far.
All right. Our expectation for students is that they join us. You know, if you apply, we figured you're serious about applying, and that we hold you to that for at least 1 year. You know, we know things happen with students over the course of the year, and adjustments can be made. So we do try to meet that. We do find the kids, I was talking about the November, October, a lot of times kids will say, oh my God, this is too much. I need to get out of the program, put me on another team. We simply can't do that. The other team's already balanced. And because of world languages, because of a lot of scheduling factors, we don't typically move students mid-year. Actually, we don't move students mid-year. We ask students to stick it out. I will tell you that 99.9% of the time, unless it's something that they need specifically, they don't leave the program. There are a few kids that leave every year for different reasons. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it is social. They said what they don't realize is after 2 years in the middle school, the high school is just like any other high school. There are inquiry classes at the high school, which I'll talk about in a minute, but you'll at least know some of the students up there already because they were your classmates the year before. So there is an added benefit to that. Yes, it's a smaller group of kids in 7th grade and 8th grade, but once you get to the high school, you meet everybody just like everybody else, but you already know a few people there.
Dr. Susi, can I
Go
add
ahead.
something to the social aspect? Because the question that often comes up, and it's a concern that a lot of students often voice to their parents, that I hear from parents, is that students are worried that they'll be isolated on the inquiry team. And listening to I've asked that question of our own students, and they were worried at first that a lot of their friends maybe were on other teams and that was going to be an issue. But I would say most of them usually say, well, I've made a lot of new friends and I was able to stay in touch with my old friends through either sports or clubs, or, we still get together outside of school, and that really is not an issue. And just keep in mind that if you're on, the gold team, you're going to be with the students on the gold team, and you won't necessarily be hanging out with all the students on the red team. So even if you're on another team, that doesn't mean you're socializing with all of the other students who are 7th graders. It's not anymore, it's not isolating at all. So I just want to put that out there because I know that sometimes as a question comes up, and I'm not sure that's in here.
Total students on each team is about 35. I already said that, about 70. Can an 8th grade student enter the program? The answer is yes. We do have about 4, I think, this year. 8th graders, 7th grade, who were 7th graders last year. They're new to the inquiry team. We were able to take 4 students, additional students. The format, the essay question. Please do not let the essay question stump you on the inquiry application. We're there, it's not graded. It's not used in any way except to gauge what interests your child has. We're looking at student interests. A lot of times, students tend to write a little bit about projects they'd like to try out, what they're interested in, what their background is. I mean, obviously, they have no idea since they haven't been on the team, unless they've had a sibling on the team. We've had a few of those. So just about anything goes. Just we'd like to hear from the kids what they would like, what their interests are, whether it be sports, engineering. It runs the gamut. Could even be medieval archery. Who knows? We've had kids who've done blacksmithing as well. I think Mr. Jancis, Carl answered this question. Is the curriculum different from traditional setting? No, the curriculum is the curriculum. The teachers are required to go through the curriculum, whether it be in the inquiry program on the gold team or red team. They all have the same curriculum, and they have to meet the same core competencies and standards that all the other students meet. And is there a high school inquiry program? Yes. High school right now offers English, social studies, and I believe science as inquiry classes. Those are the 3 classes. They're level 1 classes at the high school. They're very popular. We have kids who were not on the inquiry team take those classes, and they love it. As they go forward, social studies and English are offered, I believe, in 10th grade. Science, you get a little more specialized. It's a little different. And what also starts to become more is the introduction to AP research class. It's a new course that was offered. You take the research, learning about how to do research in usually a 10th or 11th grade, and then you, similar to GeniusHour, you pick a project that you want to research and complete, and you have to present it to a committee in 12th grade. I believe students earn up to the AP, the first AP class is either 3 or 4 credits. The second one, the research course, is also 3 or 4 credits. And colleges are looking at it as sort of a bonus. I can tell you that all levels of students are taking these classes because they're very interested in it. So that's the latest from the from the high school. The application itself, when you look at it, there's some short applications, some short answer questions. There's the essay. We do solicit teacher recommendations. when students apply here, I send an email to the teachers saying, would this be a good fit? Because we want to make sure that your child or student is not frustrated when they come here, but that they have an opportunity to expand on what they're interested in, because that's the mode of learning they're interested in pursuing, so to speak. If we do find we have a lot of applicants, sometimes we will do an interview just to make sure. Sometimes what we get from teachers, what we see in the application may not be similar. We always want to err on the side of give the student the opportunity, so the team will do a quick interview. I think it's happened only a couple times, but we always like to make sure, because again, our goal is not to frustrate anybody coming here, to give everybody the best opportunity to succeed. Timelines, tonight's meeting, the application, there's some honors math testing that'll be coming up for all students in February and March. And we typically send the notification letters out in April about the team, sometime sooner. Heidi or Carl, anything?
No, I think that's
Spot on.
it, but I'm certainly happy to entertain questions if anybody has questions.
Mean or anything, but from what I've heard, if I'm
If you want to take questions into the chat, that's
Yeah,
a good way
Probably
for us
pop into
to
the chat.
answer any questions. You're also welcome to email either myself or Carl. The question is, how is class size similar or different from that of other teams? I would say our classes, it depends on the class. I would say some of the math classes tend to be a little bit smaller just because of how scheduling works and with the different levels. But I would say otherwise they're comparable. They may be a little bit smaller. Depends on the year and the group of students, but is that accurate, Mr.
Yeah,
Jancis?
they generally have around 15 to 20 students.
Yeah, I would say 8th grade, especially this year, is fairly comparable to all the other teams. A little bit smaller, I would say, for 7th graders this year, but it will be pretty similar to what you would see on any other team in terms of class sizes.
Next question, can you give an example of how much direct instruction is provided in a math class? How is a concept introduced in an inquiry-based environment? That I can do. There is, I would say, there is still direct instruction, but as often as I can offer an opportunity for kids to investigate something in a kind of structured way, to kind of discover an idea themselves, I do that. And then we always follow up with some kind of notes or conversation or discussion to kind of solidify what they've discovered and kind of tie it all together. So I would say probably once a week we have some kind of an inquiry-based activity. Is this similar to a smaller learning academy within a building? Absolutely. Do you have a general estimate on how many students typically apply and what percentage of those are accepted to fill the 35 spots? Well, it honestly depends on the year.
Yeah, there are
really
years where we
does.
are tearing out our hair trying to figure out who to take, and just we have a huge wait list. And then other years it's like, wow, yeah, we didn't get that many, so like everyone applied, we're gonna let you in. So it really does depend upon the year.
And I'll add that and what I've told parents is students that do not get in, we do put them on a wait list, and we do take off the wait list. We do contact folks. And during the course of the year, even over the summer, actually, we've contacted people all the way up through the week or two before school starts if we have a spot. But 8th grade, we do spots, typically a few spots also open up there too. we go back to the list and we let students know if they'd like to apply or they'd like to be part of it, they're welcome to join. Any other questions? If you do have questions, as Heidi said, please feel free to email her or Carl or even myself. Be more than happy to answer them. And we look forward to seeing
So
God's application. Go ahead, Heidi.
we have one more question here, and
Okay.
I'm wondering if, I know Ms. Lynch is here, maybe she wants to address this. Since there's not a reading class, how is this portion of the curriculum covered?
Hi, I am here. I'm Susan Lynch. I'm the English language arts teacher. So it's an ELA class, English language arts, and I do both. Right now, we started out heavy on the writing. Right now, they're in book club groups. And so basically it happens together, but also connects with other classes, like Mr. Jancis had mentioned, where he's doing wonderful expository essays and papers and PowerPoints, and I'll be focusing on the English piece of that, the writing skills and the organization. But that allows me to do a little more reading as well. It allows more reading in the classroom. So basically the answer is that it happens together, integrated.
Okay.
What other questions are out there?
Anything else?
Any students? I see we have some students who have joined us. Any students who have questions? We always like questions from students. Gonna put you right on the spot. You might not have any questions yet.
Well, please let us know if you do. Thank you all for joining us this evening. And we do look forward to receiving your child's application. Thank
Thanks
you
very
everyone.
much. Stay warm.
Yeah, stay
Supposed to be a
warm.
chilly one.
Thank you.